released her book, Stop Depriving the World of You, this past November. Please help me give a warm welcome to Darlene Corbett.
Thank you so much. Thank you again. Thank you, everyone. I'm glad you're all here. It's an honor and a pleasure. I'm going to try to keep you all awake since it's later in the afternoon. So my expertise is helping people get unstuck, and one of the things that gets us stuck is feeling like imposters. But before we talk about that, we're going to talk about other things that makes life beautiful, gets us stuck, and then we'll take it from there. Life can be a beautiful experience. How many would agree with that? Mm-hmm. Yes. But it can be topsy-turvy. And when it's topsy-turvy, you feel like we're on an obstacle course. You're walking along, you're moving along, you come to an obstacle, you get over it. Smooth sailing. You know you're going to come to another. You get over that one. And then you come to one and you feel it's insurmountable. You can't get over it. You try to get around it. You try to push through it. You get stuck. We all get stuck at different points in our lives. But for some people, getting stuck like that, they don't feel they can get unstuck. And there's many ways that people get stuck. Let's start with the general. People get stuck personally and professionally. And when they get stuck personally, it often impacts them professionally. When they get stuck professionally, it often impacts them personally, and then it becomes circuitous. And people get even more stuck. So they get so stuck, they don't really, at that point, they don't feel they can get unstuck. And in corporate America, there's a lot of stuck people. How many people are familiar with the Gallup poll of 2013? Anyone? So let me tell you, and hopefully this will ring a bell, and maybe it won't, but you'll at least be well aware of what's going on in corporate America. So in 2013, Gallup did a poll, and they discovered that 70% of the American workers were disaffected, so dissatisfied with their work culture. Of that 70%, 18% felt so dissatisfied that they try to undermine their colleagues who were content. Corporate America recognized they had a problem. So what did they do? They did what everybody always wants, the quick fix. They got expensive dinners and lunches, ping pong tables, fun, exciting, people felt better temporarily. They realized this was not effective in the long term. So what Gallup looked at is what would be effective. And what they concluded was that if supervisors, managers, leaders treated their workers in a more positive way, that the American workforce would double in productivity. That is major. Yet, I still hear stories about the work culture. Darlene, I love what I do, I love my craft, but the work culture isn't great, my supervisor doesn't know how to manage, so on and so forth. In 2017, I took a look again, and I didn't see a whole lot of improvement. Yet recently, I read an article that was published in the Association for Talent and Development, and they wrote, research shows that mindful managers make happier employees. That's the title. So I looked it over, and it's exactly what I thought. Managers who are aware of their behavior, stopping, reflecting, tuning in, recognizing that they deal with their stress in a different way rather than taking it out on their employees or letting their employees know. By doing that, employees were more satisfied, more content, less stressful themselves. So it shows you the power of negative messaging and how it affects those that are beneath you. And it keeps people stuck. As we see, 70% is a high number. But what other ways do people get stuck? Complacency. Trying to go over that mountain again, insurmountable. Why bother then? You know what? I'm not going to try any harder. I'm just going to sail along. Why bother? Things are okay. It's not that great, but it's not that bad. And then you might say, but what if? What if you found another way? What if you did try to overcome that? What if you found another route? They'll never know. The next thing that is also a way to keep people stuck is fear. Fear is so powerful. Sometimes fear of the unknown. Sometimes fear that you're so stuck, it's like, what would it mean to get unstuck? I've been going along, why bother? And what's it mean if I get unstuck? Like, who am I going to become? And not only that, what will my friends think? What will my family think? Now, you would think if someone gets unstuck, that people would invite it, embrace it. And some people do, of course. They want to see that person grow and change. But there are some who don't want to see them get unstuck. Why? Because they look at themselves. If they're part of a group that's not so healthy, doing behaviors that aren't healthy, and that person says, wow, I'm feeling better, I'm not doing that anymore, the group is like, you don't belong here. So they might be excluded. They also might feel they can't lose this group. They have to weigh it. What's more important? To be an independent thinker and allow oneself to grow and get unstuck, to overcome that fear and recognize that they have to reevaluate those relationships if they are holding them back or stymieing them in any way. This is not easy to do. It's rewarding and fulfilling, but you might have to go through a few more other obstacles to get there. But the reward is that once you do, who knows how you can shine and thrive. Now we'll get to our subject matter. But before we do, I want to just kind of do an aside. Does anyone recognize this man? I wouldn't have either, but I'll tell you. Frank Abganali. Would anyone recognize that name? Ah, okay. No. No, glad you recognize it, but that's okay. No, thank you. I should have said, don't say it. All right, that's okay. You can say it in a minute. Okay. Go ahead.
The movie Catch Me If You Can.
Yes. Leonardo portrayed him. Right. Okay. Everybody see that movie? Yeah. It's a great. I love the movie. Thank you. And I didn't mean Catch Me If You Can. Now, Frank Aganelli was an amazing imposter. He what did he do? Forged checks. He was malfeasance. He played a doctor. He played obviously a captain, an line captain. He played a lawyer. I don't know how he played a doctor, but he managed to play a doctor. And the irony is, he didn't have an imposter syndrome. He was a true imposter. Mm-hmm. Once he became authentic, after he went to prison, he worked for the government, and he was able to recognize that people who can forge checks, he was so good at it. He's really a genius at it. Now he's wealthy, so his authenticity brought him fame and wealth, but more wealth and living a much better life than when he was an imposter. But those who suffer from the imposter syndrome aren't imposters. That's the irony. The imposter syndrome, I learned about it last year before I started researching it. And I had a client that said to me, Darlene, she's in corporate America, she said, my boss told me I suffer from the imposter syndrome. And she said, she goes, do you know what that is? I said, yes. And then I said, no. And then I said, wait a minute, what is it? And then she told me, and I said, of course I know what it is. First of all, I've been dealing with people that experience it for 30 years. It's not a mental health issue. It's just more of there's a lot of variables involved. But I felt like an imposter, I said, in my 20s, sometimes in my 30s. And once in a while I think, I really, I wrote an article. Are people going to think it's okay? And now I feel better about it, but in my 20s, I was in a soft science, being a therapist in the world of psychotherapy. It's navigating sometimes. You could go this way, you could go that way. And I became a hypnotherapist also. And hypnosis is it's like a therapist. You learn tools, you develop months, years. And I've been on a few years of the hypnotherapy training. And a man came to see me. I had a practice in Leominster. And he said, I have horrible pain. I really need some help. And my guru, the man that trained me, like my mentor that's written thousands of books, referred to him. I'm like, oh my goodness. His name is Dan Brown. I go, Dan Brown referred him. I better do a good job. The man came to see me 3 times. He was very polite, but somewhat stoic, and he'd thank me. And he didn't say that helped or anything like that. And then he'd leave. And finally, I think after 3 or 4 visits, it was 3, I made a recording for him. He said, thank you very much. And that was that. I thought, I don't know if I did a good job. And then, at the time, I took insurance. The insurance didn't go through because he had lost his insurance. I thought, well, that is that. I said, I wasn't very good anyway, so I'm not even going to try to go and get the money. So a few months later, I get an envelope in the mail. I open it up, and this is a note from this man. And he said, I went through so much, but I wanted to pay you because it was really effective. I was like, I still felt like an imposter. I go, really? So we all, and I can give you so many stories of that. We all experience that. I mean, does this resonate with anybody? Has anyone? Yeah. Anybody? No, you don't have to. Does anyone want to share a story?